The following program contains an all-you-can-eat philosophical buffet. If you suffer from mental indigestion, Randall may not be right for you. Check with your gastronomist.
Goodbye, Margaret Thatcher, though I never knew you at all. You had the grace to hold yourself together while others around you crawled. They crawled out of the woodwork and hated your fame. They were on a treadmill and they made Iron Lady your name. It seems to me you lived your life an Iron Lady in the wind, clinging hard to freedom when the Cold War set in. I would have liked to known you, but I was just a kid. Your candle burns on longer now, and your legend ever lives. Margaret Thatcher, rest in peace.
Proclaiming the truth in the highways and byways of the world. Fighting for justice in the dark alleys of politics. Raising the voice of resistance to a fevered pitch. And he knows where to find the best and worst jail food in America. Randall Terry.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Just left the number 10 Downing residence of the Prime Minister. That's where, of course, the late Maggie Thatcher used to live. This is day 2 in a series on the late Prime Minister, her impact on the world, what she went through. And today we're going to focus a little bit on her childhood and hopefully get some lessons for us and our children and our grandchildren. Lord, help us to raise women of this level of strength. But first, there is a woman who's got some serious strength.
Allah Akbar. People, listen, we have real enemies. I want you to think of good Muslim Representative Ellison in Minnesota. He had to put up against opponent Gary Boyclair, who showed evil images and said things that were false. Oh, would Muhammad be there? Oh, just wait until Muhammad gets his hands on Gary Boyclair.
Welcome to the program, friend. It has been so interesting to dig and to dig and to dig into the life and memory of former Prime Minister of England, Margaret Thatcher. I want to play for you a clip from her last official appearance in the House of Commons as the Prime Minister of England. Listen to her. Listen to the valor. Listen to the courage. Listen to the fact that in her voice, that right to the end, she simply doesn't back down.
Mr. Speaker, as this could well be one of the last tabled questions from a Conservative to my right honourable friend, could I take this opportunity to ask her whether she knows how many questions she's answered in her capacity as Prime Minister? Could I ask her to accept the heartfelt thanks of all her many friends inside this House and outside, especially all those in my constituency of Spelthorne? And could I say to her and to Dennis, every good wish for the future, and God bless.
Mr. Speaker, first, this will be the last question time where I shall answer. I don't believe in making a career of positively last appearances. May I thank my honourable friend for the kind words, especially about my husband, and thank him also for giving me notice about the question, because I might not have known the answer. His is the 7,498th oral question that I have replied to in 698 question time.
Can you imagine over 7,000 questions from members of Parliament? Nearly 700 different days on which she sat on the front bench taking friendly and hostile questions. In today's program and in tomorrow's, we're going to play video clips from her life. But what I want to do for a moment is step back and ask the question, how did this woman come up through the ranks of Parliament and become the first Prime Minister in English history, the first female leader of a Western democracy in all of hundreds of years of history? What kind of woman was she? Where did she get this spine? Well, when Margaret Thatcher was elected as Prime Minister, she said that she owed almost everything she was to her father, to her dad. I want to tell you a little bit about him. He was a very uneducated man. He had to quit school when he was 13 years old because there were work pressures on the family. But he was very involved in politics. I believe it was John Stuart Mill's book about liberty that had a great influence on him. He ended up becoming a town councilman from his town. He was elected as an independent. For a time, he served as a part-time justice of the peace. He served as an alderman for 11 years. He served as the president of the Chamber of Trade. He was the president of the Rotary. He was the governor in a number of local boys and girls schools and was very involved with the education of young people. He broke rank with the vast majority of English families in his day and helped his daughter get into Oxford in the early 1940s. He was a grocer. He had 2 grocery stores at the height of his mercantile career, his grocery career, and he poured his love of learning into his daughter, as well as a determination that she excel, that she read, that she speak up about her beliefs. She went to Oxford and became a chemist, so she was clearly very intelligent. And he encouraged her to run for office later in life and to be active in politics. When she was at Oxford, while a lot of young people who came from families of privilege were coming there to be educated a little and then have a life of leisure, she was studying hard in the day and was active in politics at night. I'm going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about her dad and the influence that he had on her. But I also want to talk to moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas about our sons and our daughters. Don't go away.
Randall, Lewis, and Clark were on the expedition, and most of the nights they played poker, with Lewis losing most of the time. On one of those occasions, he said to Randall, "Your name will not appear on the annals of this expedition." To which Randall replied, "Well, calling them barking squirrels is a silly name, and they're really prairie dogs anyway." So each guy got what he wanted.
How would you like to be able to reach hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of potential customers with your product or your company or your web-based business? Well, you can do that right here on this show. Every single day, we get phone calls or letters or orders online from states all over the country where people are watching this television show. Right now, we are seen in 45 cities at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time every night, and then a rerun again at 12:30 midnight. You can reach them using this show at advertising rates that are so inexpensive, it would blow your mind. So, if you're interested, contact us at the phone number that you see on the screen or the email address, and we can talk about how you can grow your business and help support this show. Because he cleaves to me in love, I will deliver him. I will protect him because he knows my name. When he calls to me, I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble and will rescue him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation.
Finally, Mr. Speaker, can I ask her to reflect with pride that 1,000 years from now, when everyone else in this house is dead dust, she alone will have her hallowed place in the history.
Well said, Right Honorable Member. If English history is still being written about 1,000 years from now, Margaret Thatcher's name will be there, someplace in prominence. How did she become the woman that she was? There is no question, even according to her own testimony, that her father played an enormous role. As moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, our children catch as much from us as they hear from us. They see as much in our lives as they might learn, or perhaps even more than they might learn, from the dictums and the words that we say to them. If I say to my sons, work hard, and they see me living like a couch potato, sitting on the sofa, doing little or nothing all day long, my words, work hard, would not have the impact on them that my laziness might have. I want to give you a challenge and a word of encouragement. Margaret Thatcher, as a young woman, watched her father become very involved in commerce, in education, and in politics. Do our sons and daughters see that in us? What are we modeling for them? Her dad, Alfred Roberts, modeled political activism, a love of education, even though he was uneducated, a love of learning. He modeled getting involved in the community. He modeled working hard, not looking to the government for handouts. He modeled it. So she got to see it day in and day out. What are we modeling? Because the simple fact, which is put forth in this colloquial phrase, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, it's true. Our kids are going to end up oftentimes, usually, somewhere close to the parameters that we set up. Thank God, not always, but often. And so if we want our sons and daughters to excel, to work hard, to love learning, to be involved in reclaiming this culture for righteousness and justice, they have to see it in us. Not just hear words witching around the dinner table or yelling at the television like it was a spectator sport. They have to see us modeling it. But I'm going to go one step further. We have a challenge as moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas that might be 10 times as large as what Alfred Roberts faced. Namely this: our children are being crippled by cyberspace and by technology. And I literally mean that their brains are being crippled. They're being dumbed down. The speed of data that comes at them, if we allow them access to all of this data, internet, video games, texting, instant messaging, constant flow of data, movies, sitcoms, 2, 3, 4 hours of television a day. If we allow this to them, it does not give the repose of the mind necessary to learn to think, to analyze, to question, to ponder, to muse, to make connections. We're actually crippling them by what we allow in, and we're keeping them from the internal discipline that is required for them to become thinkers and doers in their own right. So I'll dumb this down for me and for you just a little bit. My simple suggestion to all moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas where you have immediate influence: scale way back on the amount of data that comes to them technologically in cyberspace through texting, computers, video games, movies, TV, etc. And teach them to read and to love books and to put a real life book in their hand. Not even a nook, but a book. I'm going to take a break. We'll come back and talk more about Maggie Thatcher, show you some more incredible video clips. Don't go away.
Tired of the same old circuses? Well, it's time to follow Randall Terry. He's not like the other ringmasters. He actually cares.
Friend, you need to get this book. We Won't Get Fooled Again. Listen to this. I came to the conclusion that most folks were left over from the Reagan era who were no longer warriors, but are now either too old or unhealthy and had compromised and become comfortable with the Republican establishment. They turned these organizations pretty much into direct mail fundraising fronts and were making tons of money and living the good life in beautiful mansions. The conservative movement had transformed itself from a very dynamic, principled organization in the Reagan years to a bunch of compromising, useless, and ineffective money-making machines. I'm reading to you from the new blockbuster book, We Won't Get Fooled Again, that names names, shows organizations, shows how they say that they're Christian, but they betray Christ, they betray biblical principles in the public square, and we are funding them. Go to the website, call us on the phone, and order it today. I'll send it to you for free if you want. God bless you.
Moments with Moses. They will stumble over one another, as if to escape a sword, though none pursues. And you shall have no power to stand before your enemies.
As I've said to you many times, a person's value is not only in the friends that they keep, but the enemies that they keep as well. Margaret Thatcher sure had enemies. Amongst them were the leaders in the Coal Miners' Union. I want to play another clip from her final appearance as the Prime Minister in the House of Commons. And you get to see two things. You get to see the vitriolic hatred of one of the members of Parliament, and then you get to see her just go right back at him and talk about her impact on the coal mining union.
Will she think about the homeless who have doubled since she came to power? Yes. Is she aware that we on this side represent communities, some of which have still not recovered from the unprecedented rates of unemployment she inflicted on them in the early 80s? Are these some of the reasons why she'll go down in history as the Prime Minister who rewarded the rich and punished the poor?
Perhaps the honourable gentleman will also recall that Scotland is enjoying greater prosperity than she has ever known under any previous government. Will you also recall that there are now 2 million more jobs than there were when I took over? And will you also recall, remembering that occasion when I went in 1979, that there is much more peace in the coal industry now than there was then, and that this year we have had much more peace in the coal industry, and that we fought off some of the most difficult and vicious attacks during the coal strike that this country's ever seen, and that this year we have had the lowest number of strikes since the whole of the post-war period.
Well, there you can see it. Less violence in the coal mining movement. You can see the stridency in her arm when she puts her arm down, looks at him, says there's more jobs today and we've had less violence with the coal miners' union. For those of you who are right-to-work advocates, as I think we should be, I am one of those strange birds. I believe in unions, but I also believe in the right to work. And so did Margaret Thatcher, and she did something very interesting which helped break the stranglehold of the miners' union. And to just back up a minute, you'll be able to see, if you look around, some clips of a lot of violence with the miners' union in England. And basically, they were trying to bring down her government. They had succeeded in bringing down 2 conservative prime ministers in the early 1970s, literally choking out a lot of British commerce and life for short seasons while they were striking. And in Margaret Thatcher, they met their match. What she did was she said, okay, if it's a coal mine owned by the government, we're closing it if it's not profitable. The end. And she passed legislation, her and the members of parliament passed legislation, that coal miners could strike. Yes, they could strike, but that the individual members got to vote if they would strike. The political genius of that. Who'd be against members of a union voting if we're going to strike? In other words, she was taking away from the leadership of the coal miners union the ability to be petty tyrants and dictators and have their own personal agenda and egos involved. That way, the members of the union could decide what was really in their best interest. You can think about some of the recent shenanigans up in Wisconsin with unions there. That aside, it worked. They were trying to bring her down, and what happened was she got the coal miners thinking, and they said, yeah, if they won't let us vote, we won't strike. She prevailed, and the incredible influence, the unholy and unjust and dangerous influence that a handful of leaders had in the coal miners' union, that was brought to an end. She stood them down. She had the backbone. She had the strength. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring this around again to how it impacts us and the memory of this woman and how people still hate her to this moment. Friend, you need to get this book. We Won't Get Fooled Again. Listen to this. I came to the conclusion that most folks were left over from the Reagan era who were no longer warriors, but are now either too old or unhealthy and had compromised and become comfortable with the Republican establishment. They turned these organizations pretty much into direct mail fundraising fronts and were making tons of money and living the good life in beautiful mansions. The conservative movement had transformed itself from a very dynamic, principled organization in the Reagan years to a bunch of compromising, useless, and ineffective money-making machines. I'm reading to you from the new blockbuster book, We Won't Get Fooled Again, that names names, shows organizations, shows how they say that they're Christian, but they betray Christ, they betray biblical principles in the public square, and we are funding them. Go to the website, call us on the phone, and order it today. I'll send it to you for free if you want. God bless you. Bolshevism is not a policy, it is a disease. Sir Winston Churchill. Welcome back. Well, it was inevitable that President Obama would have to say something about Margaret Thatcher. I don't even want to soil today's program with his words, but I'll probably quote from him tomorrow, and Meryl Streep. I want to leave you with this thought. Margaret Thatcher is hated in death just about as much as she was in life. There's a passage in the book of Hebrews referring to Abel. Cain killed his brother Abel, and it says, who being dead yet speaks. There are people who had such a valiant and courageous life that they not only spoke and testified in their life, but even in their death, they speak. That is what Margaret Thatcher is doing right now. And so I leave you with these thoughts. When you and I are gone, how long will we continue to speak, and who will hear us? I submit to you that at least if we will live to the best of our ability, and we can leave a legacy to our sons and daughters, and to our grandchildren, and to other people that were around us, so that at least for a generation or two, the witness of our courage, the witness of our fidelity to the truth and to justice will live on after we're dead. And if we're graced by God that people even then hate us because we stood up for what was right and loved us because we stood for what is true, we will speak after we're dead. God bless you.